My kind of criteria is, can one person get value from this? And if literally one person can get value from it, I will click post. And just continuing to fill your cup, whatever that cup may be. That cup could be, I want to fill it with more money, more happiness. What does happiness even mean? Right? Like, I genuinely love to work. And if it's something that I love what I'm doing, it doesn't feel like work.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Build Stuff Be Kind podcast. We have today in studio AJ Eckstein of Austin, Texas, founder of Creator Match, writer for Fast Company, LinkedIn learning instructor, a homie that we met at South by, and now you're here, and I'm stoked for our conversation today, dude.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think I can't get away from the heat from Austin to now Arizona.
Yeah.
I think I walked in dripping, but,
Yeah.
but I'm excited for today.
Yeah, it's about to get even hotter here, unfortunately, in Arizona. But excited to chat, to really get to know you. I mean, we connected at an event and have had some back and forth, and really excited to have a conversation and really get to know AJ, get to know what you're all about, what your mindset is, what those core values are, and just what makes you you and in your process. And so I'd love to start with kind of where you're at in your career. What are you seeing in the creator landscape? You're doing a lot with LinkedIn. Like, what's going on in your world and kind of your day to day?
So coming out of college, and I was the first graduation class that graduated during the pandemic. So things, I thought I was going one way, things changed completely.
Yep.
I think in the moment, obviously there was so much going on. You don't understand the bigger picture. And I'm a big believer that there is a bigger picture. If you put yourself in a position to have the best opportunities come your way, things will fall into place. You could think the same thing about getting lucky. Some people in this world just get lucky, but it's because they put themselves in a position to get lucky. And I've really, throughout the last few years especially, I've given everything that I could, even being here, right? I had to show up. And I think showing up is so important in your personal and professional life. And where I'm at right now, I spent the last 3+ years in management consulting. So I've basically worked at a Fortune 500 consulting firm doing go-to-market strategy, marketing, innovation, financial strategy work for Google, Facebook, Airbnb, Disney, etc. And it's been an incredible ride. But I think during those last few years, I've realized that, I've been living someone else's dream. And I think for me, I've realized there's been some family things that have happened, some friends, there's so much stuff going on around the world. For me, it's, am I living my own dream? And I've had some really close friends, family members, and mentors tell me, you're going to be big one day. You're going to do something special, not from a financial standpoint, but just you're going to do something that you can create a ton of impact. Yeah. And I said, thanks so much. And then I think it's about time that I actually bet on myself and take that plunge and make the leap. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm leaving the consulting world to dive into the startup world. I've had every side hustle under the sun. All the way back to grade school. I would sell candy out of my backpack, and I I'd sold duct tape wallets, and every little thing. Even the last few years, I've done career coaching. I had a podcast of my own. I've done the YouTube route, everything. But I think over the last few years as well, I always wanted to be good at everything. I'm an extremely competitive person. I even have a quote on my phone that says, anything in life worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation's for cowards. It's a quote from Lone Survivor. I'm not going to pretend that that's my quote. Amazing quote though. But I think the thing that I've realized over the last few years is I've thrown so many darts to the dartboard. A couple of them have stuck. A couple of them, hit the person to the right and totally missed the dartboard. But I want to go all in on a few things and be great at a few versus average at many. So that's what I'm doing. So kind of in the bio that you shared, going all in on the startup idea that I had called Creator Match, which obviously we can talk about more today. But at the heart of it, it's just a lot of the pain that I've felt as a creator on LinkedIn. I'm part of all these different creator groups and group chats and go to these creator summits, and we go around saying, introduce yourself. What communities are you a part of? What is your main platform? And people would talk about YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. And I would basically say, oh, well, I'm LinkedIn, and then you get laughed at, and
Yeah.
they say, wait, are there LinkedIn creators? How do you monetize? And the truth of it is that there is a huge audience.
Yeah.
You know, I think they hit 1 billion users this year.
Totally.
They've been around for 20 years. They're not going anywhere. There's nothing like it. There's no place that you can actually network in a professional way.
Totally.
On TikTok, you can go viral, but you're not really connecting with
Yep.
fellow users. And I've always been someone, I am Gen Z, but I've always felt that I've been a more professional Gen Z person. So I write for Fast Company in the work life section. So we handle all of the best and most fun stories around productivity, leadership, future of work,
Nice.
Gen Z, career advice, job search, etc. So my platform and everything that I've created, from podcasting to career coaching to just content, has been living on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I've been creating actively for the last few years, and a lot of opportunities have come my way.
Totally.
Joined the LinkedIn Creators Program. I'm one of the youngest LinkedIn Learning instructors. I have 2 online courses with them. I actually was flown out to a creator shoot in Venice, California. They wanted to get some content with creators creating, which was super fun. So it's still early.
Yeah.
It's the really early days. It's like the wild, wild west of what TikTok was a few years ago.
Totally.
But also, if you think about it, so I have this belief with creators that no one is really differentiated. But to be big and to be known, you have to just start. And if you look at the biggest creators, especially on TikTok today, they just hit publish or submit
100%.
or post. And you have to have the confidence to get through those awkward early years.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can become big and make an impact with the community.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's that consistency and just willingness to like fight through and push through. I mean, you know, even Mr. Beast talks about it. It was by and far the biggest creator in the world, like 10 years or whatever he was doing. Very few views, and just honing his craft.
Well, he even said, you are crazy until you're a genius. Right. And those early years, you're going to get laughed at, especially on LinkedIn. I mean, and when I was in school and I was creating a bit, and it's still not the cool place to be.
Yeah.
But it's having its moment. I think the new B2B influencer is a new category that has never really been understood, has never been given the attention it deserved. But there are influencers and creators, we'll use them interchangeably on LinkedIn, that have all this amazing supply of content. They have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers, you know, average impressions. I mean, everything you would need to be, you know, have a sizable amount of revenue. But there have been no brands that actually say, hey, I want to sponsor your content, or hey, let's do something together. So it's brand new. It's just starting. And we're basically kind of going, I was giving you the analogy in the green room before this, we're putting all our chips and going all in on LinkedIn. And we believe that it's a huge opportunity and it's not going anywhere. So why not build for something for the future?
Yeah, I think that's extremely smart. And I think it's funny because I think we get caught up in the words influencer, creator, and really, you know, when we think about just a traditional, like, hey, I'm going to eat lunch, where would you recommend? Like, in our casual everyday life, we use influencers in so many decisions we make, of just asking a friend for a recommendation or a referral. And really, that's, in my mind, what an influencer or a creator is. They're just at a much larger scale, and they're offering their insight, knowledge, experience, whatever it is that it may be. And I think sometimes we get caught up in, you know, the word versus the actual impact that people can make, and that something we have used forever. I forget, I did an interview recently with a guy who from Austin as well, and he works for, man, my mind's blanking, but it's like food and products. If it's existed 5,000 years ago and was used, like, it's probably going to have staying power. There's like a term for it. And I think similar with influencers, like, we've always looked to people to influence and help us with decisions, even in our day to day. It's only going to continue.
Well, also, people trust people, not brands. Right? You don't consume content primarily from a brand account. You consume it from the founder. I mean, even Airbnb is such a great example with Brian Chesky being the founder. He's the PR team now. They basically share updates through him and his voice and his story. Same with Elon Musk, right? You don't follow the Tesla company page.
No.
You follow Elon Musk on Twitter for some
Yep.
really funny 2 a.m. tweets, of course.
Yeah.
But that's the future, right?
Oh,
and it's
it's
founder-led content. It's content
100%.
through a creator, an influencer, a customer, user-generated content, everything.
Yeah.
And again, LinkedIn they've been around for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So they're not anything new, but they're finally starting to realize the opportunity in this creator world. And they just released an update to their thought leader ad. So previously, let's say that we'll stay with Tesla for the example. Previously with thought leader ads, Tesla as the company could only put ad spend and boost a post from Elon Musk, who works at Tesla, or anybody who says I work at Tesla, and on LinkedIn it's attached to the company. They just released the update where now Tesla can boost anybody's post. So imagine Sean says, hey, I had an amazing podcast interview. I was there in record time thanks to my Tesla, right? It doesn't work at Tesla, but it's more influencer generated content or user generated content. So you actually could put ad spend and boost. So one of the things we offer at Creator Match is not only matching you with the best creators on LinkedIn and actually running content that's sponsored in the influencer's profile, but also putting ad spend to boost that ad and whitelist it, which has never been done before on LinkedIn. So it's brand new, super popular on Instagram, TikTok, Meta, etc. But it's brand new on LinkedIn. So I think all the ads you're going to see in the next few months, few years they're going to be so nonchalant if they're good ads, because it's through the creator's image, the creator's name, everything. You're not going to see the company ad anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. We're seeing it. I mean, I just recently saw an article to reinforce your exact point of the dollars and push around Zuckerberg right now.
Yeah.
His whole, everything is just from jujitsu to all of these things that he's been doing recently, of putting himself more at the forefront of the Meta Facebook brand, because we want to know who these people are, and you can't really hide behind the name of the company or the brand anymore. I mean, you look at I use this example often. I've probably shared it on here a number of times, but it's like Apple is arguably one of the most iconic brands of all time, and Tim Cook, who just happens to be the current CEO, has more followers than Apple does across social. And it's just that's what we want to know, the people leading in their decisions and what's going on, and that's just the name of the game.
And that's also, I mean, I have a buddy in Austin. He runs a ghostwriting agency for LinkedIn, right? Founders are too busy, and they go out and they say, hey, here are some bullet points for the month. Here's maybe a part of my story. Here's a product update, and just go and create content. We also are starting to offer that as a service as well to our brands. Is we work with a ton of founders, right? We can work with the Fortune hundreds of the world, all the way down to the smaller startups. They're busy. They don't want to create content, or if they do, they don't have the time or the expertise on what is trending that week on LinkedIn, and what are the new ad formats or the new just normal formats, right? And if you can have someone who specializes, that's how you have roles that are, I'm a YouTube thumbnail expert. I mean, it's so niche, but you realize how important it is with A/B testing. Is if the video doesn't get clicked based on the thumbnail, it doesn't matter how great the content is, because you never even, it's like, the best email, but no one ever opened the email. Right. So maximizing a subject line for email expert, which would be a really niche role. So those things I think are important to think about.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how the economy of LinkedIn evolves with these moves that they're making. They're clearly recognizing the opportunity they have with their ads platform, but also they're working on a video feed similar to Facebook Reels or TikTok, but more kind of embedded within their platform. And I think that is going to just open up even more opportunities for influencers, for brands to really engage with valuable, meaningful content.
Well, I'll tell you a really quick, funny kind of founding story of Creator Match. So I basically hopped into probably 20 plus product demos of all of the top influencer marketing platforms and agencies. I mean, the biggest in the world, hundreds of employees, all venture backed. You can look up Series B, C, D, some were acquired, and they gave me an amazing product demo. It's a great product, right? They're widely used by some of the biggest companies. And then I'd raise my hand and basically say, okay, you support all these platforms. What about LinkedIn? And I got you one of two responses. Either nobody's ever asked that because it's not a good opportunity, which I'm laughing. or we can't integrate with LinkedIn because their API is very tricky.
Yeah.
It's not very accessible to developers because their parent company, Microsoft, who acquired them back in the day, Microsoft's so protective of data that things like impressions and view count are private to the creator, right? And there are a ton of terms of service issues that you can fall into, scraping, you get into a lot of trouble that you can do on other platforms, but LinkedIn's like, okay, no, you can't do that. And one of the pieces of advice that I got was, well, you need to build a custom solution to do this. So then I said, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, and how could I differentiate myself as a small startup is instead of just building the next influencer marketing platform that supports 20 social media platforms, I'm going to build the only one that focuses on one of the biggest pain points, which is LinkedIn. So we have built a custom tech platform where the brands go on, the creators go on, the creators upload their analytics, the brands go on and view everything, and you can track at scale, which has been the biggest pain point with brands. And it's funny because I'm also a creator on LinkedIn. So I've done my own deals and I know the pain points of the process. And you're literally screenshotting your analytics, emailing it to the brand growth marketer, usually our social media marketer. They go ahead and take, let's say, 10 screenshots, manually enter it into a spreadsheet, and then have no visualization capabilities. How do you do that at scale? How do you, track everything? So we said, okay, we'll solve that into one central location. And then we run ads on the top performing posts that were done organically.
Yeah. Dude, I think that's like being able to, one, recognize a need. Did you go into those conversations thinking you were going to come out with a startup idea? Did you go in trying to see like, where can I leverage, what I've built on LinkedIn? Like, what was your mindset going into the demos and trying to really discover what you've discovered with Creator Match?
So I think my mindset changed after every single conversation or product demo I had. So initially it was, hey, like, do you guys support LinkedIn? Because I would love for you to support LinkedIn. I need LinkedIn. That's what I would be using this platform for. And I had a previous startup called The Final Round. It was a career platform. We interview recruiters to help job seekers advance past the final round interview.
Oh, nice.
So that was one of the main focuses is, hey, could we, can you find me some, creators or influencers on LinkedIn that I could use for influencer marketing? So none of them supported it. And then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, is it that possible that every single massive influencer marketing platform is just not seeing this gaping opportunity? There's so much pain. And there's so much supply of content. So like the hardest thing is like getting the real estate to advertise or run sponsored content. So the content's there. It's just nobody's advertising there. So as I kept going from product demo to product demo, my questions started changing to say, okay, could I mold this into an actual offering for brands? So originally it was just, hey, do you offer it? Because I want it. And then it started getting to the point where, okay, well, why don't you offer this? And have brands been asking for this? And what has your development team said? Is it on the product roadmap? And no one really said it was. And even if it does get added, and I'm sure maybe after they watch this, they add it, LinkedIn is still such a special and unique platform, for better or for worse, that you need a custom solution. You can't, it's not a plug and play platform. Like Meta, TikTok, it's plug and play. LinkedIn is so different that you need something custom. It's been so difficult to even get our MVP out there. But as we've been building with our development team, I've realized it's actually a really good thing how hard it's been to build, because it's a bigger barrier. And it's so difficult to even get to the point where we're at today. And it's something custom. We're putting 100% of our development resources on just LinkedIn creators. Right. Versus it might be 5% of a development team's resources for a massive company.
For sure. Well, and I think to that point is like really understanding the platform. You have this unique where you are both sides of your own customer. Right. Like you now are looking at other, influencers, content creators, looking at how can we leverage from a brand, from a company standpoint. And then also you as a creator fielding those deals and leveraging your own personal brand and network. And so you're like right in that sweet spot of.
Well, one of the funniest things, a lot of our brands have come from them directly reaching out to me as a creator. So they'll say, hey, Jay, I love your Gen Z career content on LinkedIn. Maybe I am a AI resume tool. We just got some funding. We want to do an influencer marketing campaign. Can we pay you for a post? So we hop on a call, and I said, yeah, you can pay me, let's say, a couple $100 for a post. Sure, love the product. Maybe I've tested it already. However, how are you tracking everything? Oh, the tracking is horrible. Okay, how are you managing everything? I'm a busy founder. I don't have an influencer marketing team. Interesting. So what if we did it for you? Did you know I'm also beyond a creator? I'm also a founder of Creator Match, and we've had several deals that we've closed by the companies reaching out to me as a creator. And I think the funniest thing, and actually one of the most beneficial things of this is not product market fit, but founder market fit. So you as the founder, why is the business a good fit for the market, but why is the founder a good fit for the business and the market? And there was I'm not going to pretend that that's my quote. A friend told me that. But it is interesting that I've been known as the LinkedIn guy for years now, even for better or for worse, by the way. I mean, it was not a cool thing. Today, still not as cool as I think it will be in a few years. But, I've done the LinkedIn learning instructor route. I've done the creator route. I've done created content. I've built a following. So I've been known as this guy. And instead of trying to hide it when I was younger and it wasn't the cool thing, now I'm owning it and I'm monetizing it. And I'm going all in and helping other creators monetize. So it is funny, I think, that, for all the founders that listening to this, if you have pain points of your own, those are the best first places you should solve. Is don't go out and solve somebody else's pain point. Solve your own, because I am the customer essentially. And I've done deals as a creator. I've worked with the brands. I kind of can play in multiple categories and not feel like I'm an imposter trying to solve. Because there's influencer marketing companies out there that think that we're creator first, but have never created a piece of content. And how do you say that you're creator first if you don't know what it's like to actually create content and build an audience and the hamster wheel you're on of you have to post every single day. So I think founder market fit is equally as important as product market fit.
Yeah. Wow. That's a term that I have not heard, but it makes complete sense and is, I think, more and more going back to the point of Elon Musk's and Zuckerberg and all these founders that are now, whether they've always been doing it like Elon or Mark Zuckerberg doing it more and more, and this is across all Fortune 500, companies are recognizing like, oh, we need visibility on our founder. We need them to communicate. And you're seeing it also on small scale startups that documenting the journey of the founder, telling their story. Like at the end of the day, especially early on, I tell people, it's like, you are your product right now. You're going out there selling it, talking to people. We're in Arizona right now
for meetings.
Yeah,
right?
like setting up meetings. Like you could have the best branding in the world and the perfect like website copy, and that all helps and is good to have. But at the end of the day, people are buying from you. They're working with you. They're connecting with you. And so why not be building and telling your story and sharing more and getting more exposure to you? Because at the end of the day, it's you that they're buying from.
And I think branding just has a longer tail, right? Like I think you can win fast and win quickly by just having a fancy website, throwing some copy on a landing page, sure. But I think, and especially if we talk deeper about what content actually means, and I think the companies that don't understand the beauty of content is they want an instant return. Like this one piece of content, it took me, let's say $5,000 I had to pay a creator. Why is it not bringing 5,001 cent of revenue in, so I actually can understand, the attribution and the return? But what you do is you're staying top of mind with investors, with customers, with brands, and you're the first person they think of when, maybe it's Honey House, right? Maybe it's Creator Match, maybe it's whatever it may be, you're top of mind. So it's a ton of work and it's a long journey, but when you can stay top of mind, so many more opportunities come about. Even speaking, I've had so many opportunities for speaking because I've stayed top of mind, and I post about, like, I'll post about this and being on this podcast. Maybe I get on another podcast because like, AJ, you crushed that podcast. Sean was awesome. And it's the setup is amazing, which it is, by the way. It's disgusting. It's awesome. But I think staying top of mind is so important. And just showing up for your community. We speak a lot about community on this podcast, about your audience, being there and showing up for them, even when you don't want to, I think is everything.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's something that is challenging for me. I'll go on these spurts and even fall into that, like, oh, if I put out this great episode or whatever, but it always is the consistency. How do you motivate yourself? How do you lock in? How do speak to other founders about your process of, like, how do you stay consistent? How do you continue to build on top of your content and not just kind of be like, oh, I put out a lot of good content last week, I'm just gonna chill. Like you kind of you have to keep feeding the beast.
It's not easy. I will say that especially the early days are the hardest days because you're not really going to see the success or the growth until you are a year in or 2 years in. But and we talk a lot about mentality on this podcast, right? My mentality is nothing good in this life comes easy. And the best things in the world are the hardest ones to get because they're so much more rewarding. You could say that about anything. If you sell your startup tomorrow and it gets a unicorn valuation, I mean, yeah, you have $1 billion in the bank. But is it really going to be rewarding versus a 10-year journey where there were days where your back was against the wall and literally the lights were going to go off tomorrow because you couldn't pay your rent and people were leaving and, companies were poaching I mean, there's so many things that could happen, right? But those are the best experiences are the hardest to get, right? So when you start building an audience and you realize what it means and actually building trust, even if you're not monetizing it today, I've always said, I mean, even in the early days, I was never monetizing my audience, but how I think about it is you're building basically people to come sit in an auditorium waiting for you to speak. Whenever you want to come speak, you come up, you tap the mic twice, and you say what you need to say. It could be advice. It could be, hey guys, I'm launching Creator Match. Guess what? Which, by the way, I didn't have this idea 2 years ago, right? It's something new, but I knew that it would be someday where I wanted to promote something or help people or whatever it was. And you have that audience there versus trying to have an idea and then build an audience. That's why creators are so they're so valuable is that they actually build the audience first and then think about what products or services should I sell, which is actually way harder, but you have the demand there. Then you're just gonna get the supply for what you're gonna sell. So I think going back to your original question, you just have to treat it like a priority. I think you could say, well, it's extremely hard to date when you're a founder. 100%. But is it a priority to you? And if it's not, then you probably shouldn't be dating. Right. So if you can just really make it a priority, almost like it's like brushing your teeth. That's how I think about it. So every day I'm going to brush my teeth. I have a certain block in my calendar. Let's say 30 minutes to an hour every day, especially for me and my business. I kind of need to be on LinkedIn every day. My screen time on LinkedIn is probably way too high, but there's so much I'm doing. I'm checking if creators posted. I'm checking. Also, there's so many opportunities. I've seen brands say, hey, who can help me with B2B influencer marketing? I'm like, this guy right here.
And it just happens to be at the top of your but
know.
That's gonna go away. If you're not,
they know. So
you're not there.
I think treating it like a priority. I think also having systems in place is really important. Systems can be different depending on the type of person. Whether it's batching content. So like I write all of my content on the weekend and then I either schedule or plan it out for the week. Right. Based on, let's say I'm in Arizona this week. So I'll schedule the post. I think it just went live right now. You might be asking, how did I post that? I'm on camera right now.
I saw it right before you rolled in.
And it was scheduled, right? So just being mindful of your availability, your schedule, and then also just having accountability partners. Find somebody who's in the exact same position as you, who's another busy founder doing something different. And can you say, hey man, I haven't seen you post in a week. Like what's going on? Or let me boost you, you boost me, I'll give you feedback, we learn from each other. So I think those things are things that you should think about. And if those things don't work, then I would say, and if it is a priority, which it should be, ghostwriting is a great option, which is something that we offer. And founders are busy. And if you're someone who maybe is more of a technical founder and wants to just be so deep in coding and working with your development team, then have someone write content for you because the 100%. Founder needs to speak up.
No, I think, man, so many solid nuggets. I think it's that batching the content, the consistency, building out and prioritizing. It's something that I think is such a critical component. When you are batching and laying these things out and writing this copy, taking your weekends to create this content, within all of that, how do you think about value to the audience you've built, value to future audience members that are coming in? Like, how do you really align yourself on value to the audience that you serve?
So there have definitely been posts that I've scrapped and I said, this is garbage. Every post that goes out, it is a volume play, but it is also a quality play. My kind of criteria is, can one person get value from this? And if literally one person get value from it, I will click post. And maybe it has 0 likes, has 5 impressions, but people still see it. and it can be valuable. And it's funny. I actually had a really high performing post. And I think high performing means that it resonated.
Yeah.
Not that it was a sentimental post and this and that, but just did it resonate with somebody or a group of people? And countless times I'll be out at the most random places and people will say, yo, I love your content. Like, keep it up. I love what you said. Or your post about last week about XYZ I really resonated with. And I know, because if you're someone who's a real creator, you know who actively engages with your content.
Yeah.
And this person has never liked, commented, shared anything. I didn't know they followed me on LinkedIn. But they're watching.
Oh yeah.
And that is not a one-off case. There's so many people, we call them lurkers, right?
100%.
There's so many people who are watching what you're doing. And there's also reasons why they can engage, right? So maybe number one is maybe their boss says you shouldn't be on LinkedIn during the workday.
Sure. Yeah.
So they don't want to engage because then it'll show up on their boss's feed. Maybe I made a post actually just a few days ago. It was a sponsored post, and it was how you should always be updating your resume, even if you have a job. You never know what can happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, if maybe people engage with that, it could be a bad look again for their employer. You just don't know.
Totally.
So my job is not to try to figure out why you're not engaging.
Why'd you like that post?
Exactly. But just, can you provide value? Would it help one person? If it does one, it doesn't matter how many people see it, because you help a couple people along the way.
This is why you are where you are and why you're successful, because that is, in my opinion, the single most valuable insight that you could provide anybody trying to create content online. Because if you and I walked out of this studio right now onto the street, talked to someone on the street, felt like they got value out of whatever we shared, maybe we help them with something, or even giving them directions to how to get somewhere. You kind of we would be walking the rest of our walk down the street like, man, that felt great. Like, that was awesome. We just helped that person. Like, how sick was that? And if it's like meaningful, like, you think about it over and over in your head. When we go to online interactions, we think like, oh man, if it's not thousands, 1,000 people, millions, I'm a failure. And it's like, literally, if one person gets value, it's like massive. And I think that is like that is how you should think as a content creator, in my opinion, because it's funny, the people who I feel like have the largest reach and scale of their content, reach the most people, are the people that literally create with that mentality, one-to-one.
And that goes into the analogy of having 1,000 true fans. Is like, yes, you could be the Mr. Beast of the world, which is very challenging, or you can just have 1,000 true fans who love what you're doing, and you can still monetize that because it's probably super niche. Yeah. And some businesses are really difficult to advertise because they're super niche. So you'd be surprised that it's not the size of the audience, but do you have influence over your audience? Would they trust your recommendation? If you were to say turn left instead of turn right, would they turn left? And then also you said, just to kind of change gears for a second, you said, wow, that's how you've become so successful. And success is a really interesting, I mean, that's a podcast in itself.
No,
right?
For sure.
Success is it's really funny, because I think when you're growing up, you think success basically is a synonym to money, right? Like, you're so successful, that means you are a millionaire, a billionaire. Totally. I think everybody actually has a different definition of success. People often tell me, because I am very present online, you're crushing it, you're killing it, man, you're doing so much. I think people think that I'm making so much money.
Totally, yeah.
But they don't see the dark days, the days where your back's against the wall, the days you're working 15-hour days on a Saturday, and the days you have to cancel on your family because the entire tech platform is broken, and there's so many things. So I think, for me, and defining what success actually looks like is just doing what you want to do on a daily basis, being surrounded by people who, you can collectively help each other achieve those biggest goals, and just continuing to fill your cup, whatever that cup may be. That cup could be, I want to fill it with more money, more happiness. What does happiness even mean? Right? Like, I genuinely love to work. And if it's something that I love what I'm doing, it doesn't feel like work. And that's why you hear all these stories of, oh, they work 100-hour weeks and this and that. Yes, if I was doing investment banking, I probably would not be very happy. I make a ton of money. I could have gone down that route. I have friends doing it, making a ton. But to me, I'd rather work those same hours, but doing something that I own, that I think could be valuable to other people. And
Yeah.
that to me, that is success, and like making it and doing what you want to do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because I think success often gets lost in translation, and people, it's so funny. People say, AJ, you are crushing it. And I'd say, I don't feel like that at all. Like, there's so much
Totally.
more. Maybe I've climbed a few mountains, sure.
Yeah.
But there's so many more mountains I want to climb. And I don't think I will ever feel fully satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think also it's the idea of basically being hyper ambitious. Like you're never satisfied. I think it's a blessing and a curse. You know, it's a blessing that
100%.
you never get satisfied, but it's a curse because you're never satisfied.
Yeah.
So trying to be able to say, okay, hold on. You know, recently I spoke at a TED Talk. I've been trying to speak at a TED Talk for years.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. You know, but then it's like, okay, let me do something bigger and better and high scale and everything. And it's stopping and say, okay, well, this is a huge achievement.
Totally.
Let's enjoy it. Let's celebrate. And that's a story in itself as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's being able to look back or even just pause in the moment is hard, because I'm wired that same way of just like, what's next? Like, where are we going? Okay, awesome. Let's push, let's grow. Let's, you know, it's this never ending process, but it is a good reminder to just like slow down and just like, you know, look back and be like, whoa, look how far I've come.
And it's so important. It's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, again, that's why having accountability partners and saying, whoa, slow down. Like, this is awesome what we just did. You know, let's, and I think it is important to celebrate the wins, even if they're not, you know, I think everybody wants to celebrate a home run. Yeah. Right. But why not celebrate the singles or the doubles, right? It doesn't have to be only popping, you know,
100%.
Expensive champagne on a home run, because there's only so many home runs that you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you might as well celebrate the small things versus just the massive parties for the acquisition of the startup, right? Yeah. But why not celebrate your first customer and your 1,000 users and those little milestones that add up to become a home run?
Yeah. No, that's 100%. Clearly, you're driven by a lot of values of hard work, of passion, and following those things. What are values that you feel like are critical to how you operate, how you align yourself with business partners? Are there things that are either like clear and you know them, you've written them now, or things that just maybe even just come to mind of values that you want to be aligned on, that you push to be yourself and to align with others who are that?
So I would say they need to be competitive. You know, if I'm building my team, we want to win. Yeah. And if you're someone who doesn't want to win, it's not the right place. You know, does everybody need to work as many hours as the founder? Of course not. Yeah. You know, I think even trying to make your team work as to be as passionate, as motivated, and as hardworking as you as the founder, who probably owns way more equity, has way more at stake, and is started it from nothing, I think is a big misconception. Yeah. But I think you have to have the tenacity and the hunger to win. You have to be a self-starter. You know, I can't be there holding your hand, and I want you being there holding my hand. We can help each other grow. I think that's super important. I think how you get to victory needs to be in an ethical business way. You know, I don't want to be known. I think a lot about how I'm known in this business world. Yeah. Whether it's with customers on the creator side, customers on the brand side, other people, when people connect me with somebody else, like, what would they say about Sean as a person? Is he someone that is he a good person? Are you gonna walk all over him? Is he gonna badmouth you and, you know, stab you in the back? Is he gonna be scrappy but do something unethical in business? Like, how do you really want to be known? I think is really important. For me, it's, you know, I want to win no matter what we do. It could be as high stakes as a product launch or as low stakes as we're playing pickleball. Yeah. I want to win. And again, going back to that quote that I said earlier, anything in life worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation's for cowards. I truly believe it. So you should give it your all in anything. Yeah. And I hope that our team can do the same. I also think that, you know, with the self-starter mentalities, you just have to be tenacious, ambitious, hungry, but also driven by something bigger than yourself. So I always say that everybody on the team needs to be aligned on the vision and where the end goal is, even though the end goal could change as the business pivots.
Everything evolves.
How you get there could be different. So I might say, okay, well, we want to be, you know, the biggest LinkedIn creator marketing platform and agency in the world and get acquired by LinkedIn one day. That's the vision, right? Everyone on the team needs to say, okay, I agree. Yeah. How we're going to get there. Maybe I say, let's go right. you say, let's go left. That's fine because there's different viewpoints in the team.
Totally.
But we need to have the same end goal
Core,
to get us to where we want to
alignment.
go. And then other things, of course, accountability, integrity. Can I trust you? I think trust is something that it takes so long to earn, but you can lose it in a second. Same with your audience. Going back to content is you could have 1 million followers, spent 10 years getting to this point, and Mr. Beast does one thing, he can get canceled, he's done.
Totally.
And not even the cancel aspect, but just losing trust with your audience. Same with your team.
Totally.
And also just thinking about leadership. I've had every type of manager under the sun. The best managers that I wanted to go above and beyond for. I've had horrible managers that I didn't want to work 1 hour for a day. So I'm the type of leader, or trying to be the type of leader, of molding the best of everybody, right? Almost like having this Frankenstein approach of taking the best parts of every leadership style and trying to get the most out of a team. Because really the best leaders are the ones that can find the best people around them to collectively go and achieve some sort of bigger aspiration, bigger goal. And my biggest leadership quality, I would say, is lead by example. So I always say that, it's funny because, again, you would only think of the successes and looking at my LinkedIn, but my early days, I mean, I've done every minimum wage job. I was bussing tables, cleaning bathrooms, serving food. I used to food run at a restaurant, and I would walk 15 miles a day. Running. I mean, I had just nacho cheese burns on my hand as I'm serving all these plates and seafood, and I would come home smelling like fish, but made a ton of money in tips because I was hustling. But those early days, I think I learned a lot about being in the restaurant business. As you know, customer service is everything. Customers are always right, even though they're always wrong usually in the restaurant.
No doubt.
But my point with this is that the best restaurant managers are not the ones that came from corporate. Right, they're the ones that started, and they also bus tables. They also clean tables, and they serve food. Because when things break, and let's say that you're supposed to have 10 servers, and there's only 5 because 5 called in sick. Is that restaurant manager going to be able to roll up their sleeves and get 100%. To work? And I actually had some of those, and I always respected. They'd be in nice clothes, and they would roll up their sleeves and literally be cleaning dishes.
Totally.
And I said, that's the type of leader and manager that I want to be, is that I'm not just telling you what to
100%.
do, but like, let's get to work. If I'm saying stay late, guess what? I'm staying late with you. Let's get this done.
Dude, I think that's such a powerful, I think that's across, yes, especially in the restaurant. And then as you're illustrating, like across the board, those are the types of leaders that really make meaningful impact on people and on their business and on the lives of their customers and themselves. Is like that ability to just like, all right, well, who's sweeping the floor? All right, we're sweeping the floor. All right, let's go. Let's get this done. Let's make it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I think the values you spoke to and we actually recently, I want to reinforce what you just said, because I have experienced it firsthand. We had a call planning for you to come out here, and you asked me about a mutual friend of ours, and just the way that you asked the question of like, what type of person are there? Are there someone I can trust? Are there someone? And just like, it was just something that really stood out in our conversation of like, man, that's the type of due diligence or process of really being aligned to your core values. That's like part of the conversation, because eventually you could figure it out on your own, or you could ask me later, but that it was like so early in the conversation you're having with our mutual friend, like it just stood out to me, and it was just a 2-second thing, but it really spoke to me of like that your core values are so at the forefront of the decisions you're making. Like that really stood out.
And again, it compounds over time, right? So as you become someone who's known as anything he does, like anything he touches turns to gold, and he leads by integrity, and he's accountable, and he's not a snake, and he's not going to undercut you, and like you can trust him, or her. I think that is where you want to get to, because you'd be surprised at how much your name will come up, right? From potential investor to potential investor, or customer to customer, or podcast, or whatever it may be. One mistake and it's over, and you're done. And you're like, I don't know. He had some shady business practices. I don't want to be known as a shady business practice. I want to win 1000%. Anything that I do, I want to come out victorious, but I want to do it the right way, not the fast, quick, easy way. And I think everybody wants to do like the get rich quick scheme, right? Or instant success, right? Or self-made stories, but they're often a sham.
Yeah.
And the best ones are the long tail victories.
I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation. You said you started, selling candy out of your backpack in school. And what do you think at that time that maybe still connects to, like, what was driving, 14-year-old AJ to sling blow pops in junior high to now, like, what is it that motivates you to roll up your sleeves, to put in the hard work, to bust tables? And my parents owned a bakery for 15 years, and so I know the people who would be willing to stack the plates and do the things and get into the dirty, and the people that would just mail it in. And clearly you are the person who will stack, do what it takes to get the job done. Where does that come from?
Definitely, I would say my parents. I think I've come from a very entrepreneurial family. My mom immigrated from Mexico City, so we're half Mexican,
cool.
actually. And she came over with nothing, barely even speaking the language. And her sister, my aunt, started a custom jewelry company. And growing up, even though I wasn't actually working with them, I would spend so much time in their office, and I call it my mini MBA, because 14-year-old AJ, as I have way too many sweet tarts in my backpack and way too much money in my backpack, would just be seeing a bustling business just unfold and asking questions. And even though it's, maybe I wasn't signing $1 million checks, but I was folding boxes for them and packaging jewelry and whatever it may have been. And I saw how hard my mom worked, especially. And she, even with 2 kids, myself and my sister, would still go to trade shows in Vegas. And it's funny that I never understood how hard they were. And so now I'm living that world of same when we just came from South by in Austin.
Dude.
I mean, it's just been on the road every day.
Trade show is a grind, dude.
Yeah, so I would say that, and then definitely my dad as well. I think I've kind of really good parts of both of them, and he's always just, I think, taught me that you can never settle. And I think also there's this analogy and there's this thought that cars have this thing called a governor. Right. And if you floor your car, your BMW, it might go as fast as 130 miles an hour. But if you look at the speedometer, there's actually way more than 130. It can actually go to 200. Yeah. Right. So if you remove the governor, you realize how much more you have. It also kind of comes from David Goggins, where when you think you're done, you're only 70% done. You still have 30% left. Yeah. Right. So it's those things, a mix of a little bit of everything, and also just asking myself, when I look at myself in the mirror, am I giving it all? Yeah. Am I proud of what I'm doing? Anything that I put out in the world, is it my best work? And yes, you have to be careful, because you don't want to just put out the best, or else it's too late. But just being proud of what you're doing, and doing something, because my goal is not to retire at 30 and be a Bitcoin millionaire. That'd actually be a really boring and sad life. What do you do for the next 70 years? Like, I think I'll
lose your mind unless you find the next thing.
Exactly. So I want to build something meaningful. I want to, make impact in the community. I want to help others. And of course, I'm not going to say I'm not driven by money in any sense. We need money to live and money to feed the business, but it's not my number one metric. Yeah. And I take so many qualities from my parents and want to make them proud, of course, as well.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that story and that journey, and that, like, just seeing a business, I don't know how big or lucrative or successful your mom's jewelry business was or is, like, just seeing that, like, seeing the process, like, oh, this is doable, like, and also probably programming you, like, of course, like, this is, you want to be successful, you want to have a business, you just do it, you figure it out and you make it happen. And I think that's such a powerful thing to have that example at such a young age, especially your mom and family, and have that close to the vest is incredible.
So I think everybody, and I think it's sexy to be an entrepreneur today, which is so wrong. It is not sexy at all.
Yeah, and mostly miserable.
It's mostly miserable, and of course you do it for those non-miserable moments.
For 100%,
right? But I think everybody wants to be that, to have entrepreneur in their bio. Yeah. But again, you and I both know that it's not, 99% of the times it's not sexy at all. But you also need to ask yourself, do you want to be the one calling the shots and taking the buzzer beater shot?
Totally.
and you have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows? Or do you want to be the sixth man or the fifth man or whatever it may be, and just be someone who works 9 to 5 and clocks in, clocks out? I don't think everybody needs to be a founder or entrepreneur. I don't think everybody really wants to, or let alone is good at it. I'm not saying I'm the best founder in the world at all, but I do think that it's a different breed of a person, because you need to sacrifice so much to even get what you want to get off the ground. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to sacrifice those things? And are you able to say no to your friends on a Wednesday night because you're working 12-hour days? Are you able to say no to your family and to not have a salary for a few months and just have your back against the wall and really take a risk? So I do think that there's this, it gets very glorified, but it's not the case at all. And I don't think everybody needs to be. And also, if everybody was a founder, there'd be no team. So you still need, I mean, there are some people who come in, I'm going to be the best, number 2 or number 3, and those are equally as important.
No, I think you illustrated a great point. I'm a big Suns fan, diehard. Watch every game. Devin Booker is just an incredible athlete, and just I love everything about the dude, his vibe, his style. But when you're saying, it's like that, like he is that guy, like he wants to be that guy. He's prepared himself to be that player, and I think it's so easy or easier in the sports reference, like, of course, like there's the guy you want taking the final shot, and then there's the guy you want hitting that 3, halfway through the fourth quarter, or doing, distributing the ball, or being these different role positions. But I think entrepreneurship, you're right, like it gets so I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You have to be like the number 1 when like maybe you're a great number 2, 3, 4. And I think it's all about recognizing your core strengths and values and what you bring to the table, and recognizing like this is where I can add the most value, whether that is like, spearheading and trailblazing and being the number 1, or if that's like, I'm going to find someone who's already got something going. I actually can be really good at like fueling that and driving that forward.
And they're equally as important. Right,
100%.
you need both. Right, you can't just have Michael Jordan. You need Scottie Pippen. You need the next 5 Bull players, whatever it may be, and they're equally as important.
No, I love that. We have one question that we ask every guest on the show, and we can talk as long as we want about this topic, because it's a meaningful one. But for you, AJ, what role has kindness played in building your success?
I think it's been one of the most important things. I think leading with kindness is something that is not widely done today. I think there's so many things that you see that people make decisions based on financial decisions and money, which again, quick win, short-term win, long-term loss, right? You win the battle, not the war. But I want to win the war, right? I'm fine being in the trenches for 5 years, 10 years, however long it takes. That's what I'm looking at. And I think if you could lead by kindness, whether you're a leader trying to lead your team and really being there for your team. And, it's okay to not start a meeting by saying, okay, like, what did you do last week? But just, hey, how are you doing on a human level? Like, how are you actually doing? Don't just say, oh, I'm good. How are you? I always hate the superficial talk. Sean, how are you actually doing as a human being, as an individual? You said maybe you had some family stuff going on. Tell me about that if you want to share it. Or, hey, you were gone for a week doing whatever, like tell me more about that. Like really getting to know your team, starting with kindness, I think is everything. If you can get to know your customers, your investors, your team, anybody on a kindness level, I think it will just lead to the most fulfilling rewards. And again, going back to what we said before about how do you want to be known in the community, right? And I'd love to be known as someone. AJ is such a kind person. He will smoke you on the court because he wants to win. If you play any sports with him, or if you're going to battle with him in business, like he wants to win, but he will do it with kindness and he'll do it respectfully. And he, and maybe I'm not gonna say I always win. I definitely want to always win,
for sure,
but I'm gonna do it starting with kindness. So I think it's extremely important, and I think where we're at in the world outside of just this podcast, I wish there was more kindness. Because I think we've never lived in a more divided society, even just not in the US, but around the world.
100%. I think that's part of the reason for creating this podcast and having these conversations is illustrating that you can be both, that you AJ Eckstein exist as a person who is both cutthroat and will freaking murder you on the court, and then a homie immediately after the buzzer. Right?
I'll give you. I mean, we're going back to basketball analogies, and rest in peace, Kobe. I grew up watching Kobe. I'm also from LA, so I mean, incredible person. But
so you're allowed to be a Kobe.
I'm allowed.
A Lakers fan. Okay,
yes. Now you'll never catch me wearing a LeBron jersey ever. But it was very similar to Kobe, right? Where if you actually get to know him off the court, I'm not going to pretend that I knew him off the court, right? It was not on my speed dial. I wish. But he was the kindest person, and he did so much for the community. Yeah. And he was a good person and such a good family man. But when he steps one toe on that court, he wants to crush you and smoke you, and the Black Mamba analogy. So I think, honestly, again, I hate that I'm even trying to compare myself to Kobe, but just those acts of when I'm out and about with my friends, family, the community, I am a kind person. When I'm on the court, let's say in the business world, I want to win, but still, like, you never would see Kobe do anything dirty. Yeah. Right? You wouldn't see him do anything like, I'm going to take Sean's legs out when he goes for a jumper. We're going to win the championship. No, I'm still going to win the championship, but I'm going to do it in a way where I do lockdown defense.
And I'm playing my best.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because that's a fair win. Yeah. And I think kindness, equity, quality, being fair, all go hand in hand.
Well, I think the very best, Kobe is a prime example of this, want to play against the best. Like, you want to go toe-to-toe. Like, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm amazing and doing this thing. Like, you had a goal of having a TED Talk, like, right? Yeah. That's putting yourself up against some incredible speakers and authors and thought leaders, and like, now, like, putting yourself in that, not that it's a competition or anything, but it's like, you want to be in the realm of the very best. And that is a platform that is like, something to strive for. And I think the same in business, like, you want competitors in what you're building, you want to go toe to toe and really come out on top, but have that natural competition to really push you and grow.
And even just, I know we could talk about competition, I think for hours, but one final thing I'll say, I know we're almost wrapping up, is I think early on in my career, I hated competition, especially in business. You don't want to be in a competitive space. Like, why would you want to be in a red ocean? But then you realize that, Lyft and Uber are actually way more friends than they are competitors. Totally. Because let's say that, all of their drivers are starting to say that we want health insurance. That affects both companies, the industry, not the company. Yeah. Right. So they actually team up and are saying, hey, well, no, we can't afford it, whatever it is. So competition is a healthy thing, and just asking yourself where you want to play, what you want to specialize in, how are you going to be different? And I think it makes you so much better. So imagine if there was a world with just Uber. I think Uber as a business, as a product, would actually be way more inferior than it is today. Yeah, but because there's competition, they have to be the best. Yeah. And also, kind of going back to LinkedIn, it's funny, since LinkedIn doesn't really have direct competition, where like, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, 3 basically carbon copies, right? Yes, TikTok is the leader right now, but they have to continually be better. Yeah. LinkedIn is funny because there's no competition. So my hunch is that the product hasn't really evolved in 20 years. Yeah. I wish it did. I could give a laundry list of product updates that the DM features, there's so many things. Yeah. But I think that's why they haven't had the pressure to innovate, is because there's no direct competition. Yeah. So early on, I got really afraid of competition, and I said, this is horrible. I get so stressed, and I feel like I need to work 100 hours today to just beat them. But again, it's a long game. Yep. And just because someone gets PR in a top article, or they get featured on a top podcast, whatever it is, doesn't mean that actually leads to customers. And also, just because someone has a customer doesn't mean they can't churn and move over to your business, right? There's no one who owns everything. So if you can just continue to be the best and focus on yourself, your business, people will come. It just can take time. Yeah.
No, I think, speaking of TED Talks, Simon Sinek has a book called The Infinite Game, and talks at length about that idea of like, you want that competition. It's a healthy competition. Yeah. If you're playing an infinite game, it's all about that. This never ending. Like, there's no winning. And like, even Uber and Lyft, like, they go back and forth, or Apple and Android, like, you have market share, but it's like, it's this infinite game of progress and growth and exponentially just improving your product or service.
Well, even look at Liquid Death, right? Liquid Death entered probably one of the most competitive industries. I mean, bottled water.
Insane.
Right?
Yep.
And they gobbled up so much market share.
So much.
So it's something simple from a branding standpoint, from a product standpoint. And anything could be changed and disrupted.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, looking at candy bars with Mr. Beast, he's going after Hershey's, right? And they're definitely shaking in their boots right now. So it's just, you have to ask yourself, how do you differentiate yourself, the company, and being okay knowing that tomorrow and the next day there will only be more and more competition. But competition is a good thing because it forces you to be the best. And if you're the best basketball player and there's no one even close, right? What is the desire? What's the need to practice your jump shot? You know, because you can miss 5 in a row and you still win. Right. But if there's someone else on the court who's like, okay, I'm going to beat you, we're going to go head to head every day. Think about how much better you get. Right. And there doesn't have to be one market leader. There could be multiple players. These spaces, we think they're so small. Even LinkedIn, right? I want to be the best, I want to be the biggest. LinkedIn has 1 billion users. Right. Totally. 4 billion in ad revenue.
That is insane.
Right. If I wanted to even get 1% of that would be massive. Right? So you're saying that when 99% of the market isn't available, I mean, people can come. Obviously, I want to win, but I want to do it with kindness.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. Such a great, so many nuggets, so many just different. I feel like we could honestly probably go for another 3 hours, but we'll have a part 2 and 3 and 4.
Yep.
I can guess what the answer is going to be to this, but where could people find you, follow along with your journey, and know what you have going on?
It'd be funny if I didn't say LinkedIn. I feel like that would be I'd be an imposter.
I'm only on Twitter.
Definitely LinkedIn. Just looking up my name, AJ Eckstein on LinkedIn, and then our website. I think we lucked out on one of the best domains, just creatormatch.com. Super simple. Learn more.
Awesome.
Message me. Check us out, and we can chat.
That name honestly feels like it's just like I already feel like I know that name, even though it's so nice work on that. Well, we'll definitely link you in the full length on YouTube and everything, on the podcast, but also clips.
And I'll post about it on LinkedIn as well. So look at that.
There'll be a lot of great clips. Hopefully we'll time it just right for the new, video platform where all the clips will come out. So amazing. Follow along. Appreciate you, dude, coming here, being in person. Like there is something about being able to sit down and have these conversations and get to know. I feel like I now know you on such a deeper level. Already, admired just the way that you show up at events and what you're doing and how you show up online, but really appreciate, the energy and the thoughts and inspiration you brought today. So I know a lot of people will take a lot of value from that. So
you have to just show up, right? I'll end with one final quote before we can both drop the mic from this episode, or the imagination of dropping this mic. The hardest line to cross is not the finish line, but the start line, because most people don't even show up. So, it's definitely intimidating being on the show right now. But the hardest part was not finishing this episode. It was walking through that door, getting on a flight to Arizona and actually showing up to this episode. Because once you're here, we're here,
go.
Right? It's maybe tough to get to the gym, but once you're at the gym, you'll have a good workout.
Totally.
So just show up. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Just show up, everybody.
Dude, that is a mic drop moment. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been an incredible episode with AJ. Hit that subscribe button. Let us know what your favorite part of this episode is so that we can have more conversations with founders just like AJ about their mentality, their core values, the things that are driving them in their day-to-day, building their businesses. A pleasure. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for having me.